Hello guys, so in today's video we're going to learn how to improve sentences. Now, improving sentences, basically the questions for improving sentences are such that you've been given a sentence and some part of the sentence has been underlined, or in some cases the entire sentence is underlined and you have to improve the underlined part. Okay, so you've been given 4 or 5 options and you have to choose one of the options to improve the underlying part of the sentence. Okay, now in order to improve sentences correctly, we need to be aware of some things such as sentence fragments, run-on sentences, misplaced modifiers, and I'm going to teach you all of that today in this video. Okay, so we're going to begin with studying about sentence fragments. Okay, and sentence fragments are incomplete sentences that make no sense. Okay, so what does fragment mean? What does the word fragment mean? It means piece. A piece of something is a fragment of something. So sentence fragments are pieces of sentences that are incomplete and they make no sense. Okay, so let's look at this first example over here. A sentence fragment is driving in the city during the evening rush hour. That's it. That's the sentence, right? So this sentence is not, there's nothing happening in the sentence. It's not giving you any information, right? The sentence is meaningless basically because driving in the city during the evening rush hour, what? Right? There's a question mark at the end, like what is happening? What is happening in the sentence? What is it trying to tell us? So this is a sentence fragment. However, if you want to write a complete sentence, you can say driving in the city during the evening rush hour is exhausting. Right? Now this sentence has a point, it has a meaning, it is trying to tell you something. It is trying to tell you that it is exhausting to drive in the city in the evening. Right? Let's look at the second example. To apply for a job at the new store in the mall. Again, this sentence has no meaning, it's incomplete. There's a question mark in your head when you read this. You're like, what's happening in this sentence? What about it? Right? But a complete sentence would look like, I want to apply for a job at the new store in the mall. Okay, so this is a complete sentence, it's a complete thought, it makes sense on its own, and it has a meaning. Now let's look at the third one, the birds that are migrating. Again, what about the birds that are migrating? What happened to them? Right? So a complete sentence would be, the birds that are migrating will return in the summer. Right? So by adding this additional piece of information, we are making the sentence complete and we are making the sentence meaningful, right? We're trying to send a point across. So guys, whenever you get a question in which you feel like the sentence is not really making any sense, the sentence is not really giving you any information, you're not learning anything new from the sentence, that means it's a sentence fragment, right? And we always have to avoid sentence fragments because they're incorrect, right? They're grammatically incorrect. So, whenever you've been given a sentence fragment and you have to improve that, always remember that you will choose the option that has some added information in it. Okay, remember this. So whenever you've been given a sentence fragment and you feel like it's a you're never going to be told that it's a sentence fragment, right? You have to decide that on your own. So whenever you feel like something is a sentence fragment, it's incomplete, you always have to choose the option that has some added information to it. What will that do? That will complete the sentence. Okay, now the second thing you need to be careful of are run-on sentences. Now, run-on sentences are sentences with at least 2 independent clauses. Independent clauses are complete thoughts, complete sentences on their own, which are forced together instead of being properly connected. Okay, what that means is when one sentence, sometimes you read a sentence and it keeps going on and on and on, and there's no punctuation, there are no connectives used in that sentence. I hope all of you know what connectives are. Connectives are words that connect clauses within a sentence, right? So, and, but, or, because, so, then, and there are many, many more connectives, but these are just some examples of connectives, right? Connectives are words that connect clauses within sentences, right? So, for example, I was sick, so I didn't go to work. So in that sentence, so is the connective because it's connecting the 2 clauses. So in a run-on sentence, um, Sometimes we read sentences that keep going on and on. There's no punctuation in the sentence. There are no connectives used in the sentence. So, and they really don't make any sense because they're just going on, and you're like, what is happening in this sentence? So that is a run-on sentence, okay? Now let's look at this example. The first one, my favorite band is in town. They are performing now. Now, look, you know that there should be some form of punctuation over here, some punctuation mark somewhere in the sentence, okay? Now we'll decide where it should be, but right away when you read the sentence, you know that this sentence should be punctuated and it's not, okay? So the correct way of writing the same sentence would be, my favorite band is in town, full stop. They are performing now, full stop. Okay. So you see, we broke this sentence into two different sentences and they're complete on their own. Okay. So the only thing we needed to do was add a full stop over here, which we did. Now another way of writing the same sentence can be, my favorite band is in town, comma, and they are performing now. So what did we do? We added a comma and we added the word and. Okay, so we added punctuation and we added a conjunction. So there are two different ways of writing this, of rewriting this run-on sentence in the correct manner. Now let's look at another example. Leela enjoyed the bouquet of tulips John gave her on prom night. However, she prefers roses. Now this sentence is kind of long and it has no punctuation. I hope all of you know that whenever you come across the word however, whether it's in the middle of a sentence or whether it's at the beginning of a sentence, there will always be a comma after however. Always, always. Okay, remember this as a rule. There will always be a comma after however, whether it's in the middle of a sentence or beginning. Okay, it doesn't matter, you will always put a comma after however. Now, clearly, there should be some sort of punctuation mark in this sentence. So let's read the correct version of the same sentence. Okay. Leela enjoyed the bouquet of tulips John gave her on prom night, semicolon. However, comma, she prefers roses. Okay. So this is a good way of rewriting the sentence because we're sort of do. I hope you guys remember what semicolons do, right? Semicolons sort of separate two clauses, right? So these two clauses can be complete on their own, right? This is the first one. Leela enjoyed the bouquet of tulips John gave her on prom night. This is the first sentence. And the second one is, however, she prefers roses. Now, look, both of these are complete sentences on their own, but they are closely related. So we can add a semicolon between them, okay? So that's why we added one over here. Now, the second way of writing this correctly is, Leela enjoyed the bouquet of tulips John gave her on prom night, full stop. However, comma, she prefers roses. So you see, in the first one, we added a semicolon to separate the two sentences that were closely related. But we can also add a full stop and make this a new sentence. However, she prefers roses. Okay, so I'm sure all of you know when you read a run-on sentence, I'm sure all of you at some level you can recognize that this sentence is not correct. Okay, it needs to be fixed. There needs to be some punctuation in the sentence. Needs to be some there need to be some conjunctions in the sentence. So I've given you three different ways of fixing run-on sentences. Okay, number one is separating clauses using punctuation. Okay, so you can use a comma, you can use a full stop, you can use a semicolon, you can use a colon, you can use any of these, right? Or any other punctuation marks you're aware of. Separating clauses using a conjunction. I told you what a conjunction is. And if by any chance you don't know what a conjunction is, please look at my first video. Watch that because I have explained what conjunctions are in that video and I've given you many, many examples of conjunctions. So please go watch that. And the third way of doing this is rearranging the sentence. Okay, sometimes a sentence has not been phrased correctly and it can be fixed, it can be improved just by rearranging the words, just by shifting the words around. Okay. Okay, so I have an example of a run-on sentence over here. It's been written thrice because the first one is incorrect, and for the other two, I will add some punctuation in the sentence and tell you how to improve the run-on sentence. Okay, so let's read the sentence. I love to write papers. I would write one every day if I had the time. Now, if you notice, there are two different sentences in the same sentence, right? There's no punctuation between them. There are no connectives between them. So we can improve this, okay? Because I love to write papers is one sentence, and I would write one every day if I had the time. That's a second sentence. Clearly, right? And they've been forced together in the same sentence, so there should be some punctuation between them, okay? So one way of fixing this can be, I love to write papers, full stop. I would write one every day if I had the time, right? So just by adding a full stop, you've turned one run-on sentence into two complete and correct sentences. Okay, they're complete and correct on their own. And what did we do? We just added a full stop between them. Another way of fixing this is, I love to write papers, semicolon. I would write one every day if I had the time. Now, why did we add a semicolon? Why can we add a semicolon over here? We can add it because these two sentences are complete and correct on their own, but they are closely related, right? They're about the same thing. They're about writing papers. This is the subject of the sentence, writing papers. So both the sentences are about the same subject, right? So they are closely related, but they are complete sentences on their own, so we can separate them using a semicolon, okay? And we can also separate them using a full stop. So these are two different ways. So these are both correct and this one was wrong, okay? So we fixed this run-on sentence, and we, in the first example, we turned it into two complete sentences using a full stop, and in the second one, we let it be one sentence, but we added a semicolon between them. Now we have one more example of a run-on sentence, and again, I'm going to fix it and show you how to improve the run-on sentence. So again, the first one is incorrect, and on the second two sentences, I'm going to add some punctuation to show you how to fix the sentence, okay? So let's look at the sentence. The results of the study were inconclusive, therefore, more research needs to be done on the topic. Now, even though there is a comma in the sentence, that doesn't mean it's correct. That doesn't mean it's not a run-on sentence, because it is a run-on sentence, okay? It's not, there should be more punctuation in the sentence, and one comma over here is not enough, okay? In fact, it's not just not enough, it's also incorrectly placed. Okay, a comma should not be here. There's no use of a comma in this place, and we'll see why. Okay, the number one thing you need to know is, like I told you before, whenever you see the word however, there must be a comma after it. Similarly, for the word therefore, there always will be a comma after it. Okay, remember this as a rule. Whether therefore is coming at the start of a sentence, whether it's coming in the middle of a sentence, you will always add a comma after therefore. Okay, so let's see. So firstly, that is incorrect, right? There's no comma over here, and this comma is incorrectly placed. Now, how can we fix this sentence? The results of the study were inconclusive. How about I make this a semicolon instead of a comma, and I add a comma over here. Okay, so that is one way of fixing this. The results of the study were inconclusive, semicolon, therefore, comma, more research needs to be done on the topic. Now, what did we do? These two sentences are complete on their own, right? This is number one, and this is number two. Okay, the word therefore in the middle is just it's a connective. Okay, let me write that. So these two sentences are complete on their own, and they've been joined by a connective. But how can we improve it? We separated the two sentences using a semicolon. And why can we use a semicolon? Because the two sentences are closely related, right? They're about the same thing. So we can add a semicolon, and also we must add a comma after therefore, because I just told you that's a rule, okay? Another way of fixing the same sentence is, the results of the study were inconclusive. How about I add a comma, a full stop over here, sorry, not a comma, a full stop, and I make this a new sentence. So this will be capital T, H, and therefore, right? So, oh, and there has to be a comma over here, right? So the results of the study were inconclusive, full stop. Therefore, comma, more research needs to be done on the topic. So what did we do? Again, we divided the run-on sentence into two different sentences that are complete on their own and they make sense on their own. Okay, so this is another way of fixing this. Again, these two are correct. This was the incorrect sentence. Okay, so I just told you in this video that whenever you have the words however or therefore, you will always add a comma after them. Now, I just wanted to build on that. In case some of you didn't know, I just wanted to give you this extra information that these are a list of words. I'm sure there are many, many such words, many, many more such words that always have a comma after them. Okay, for example, however, therefore, thus, hence, additionally, moreover, furthermore, in addition to that, consequently, unfortunately. Now, whenever you write these words in a sentence, or whenever you see these words written in a sentence, there will always be a comma after them, okay? Whether they occur in the beginning of a sentence or end of a sentence. It does not matter. These words will always be followed by a comma. Okay, remember that. So now let me just tell you what these words mean. These words mean the same thing. Therefore, thus, hence. When you're concluding something, right? Like we saw in the previous on the previous slide, the results of the study were inconclusive. Therefore, right? So we're concluding something. Whenever you are concluding something, you will use either therefore, thus, or hence. Okay. Now, these ones, additionally, moreover, furthermore, in addition to that, this is when you want to add something. Okay, whenever you want to add some information to a sentence, or when you want to build upon the information you have already stated, you will use these words, right? Additionally, moreover, furthermore, or in addition to that. Then there is consequently, of course, as the word suggests, whenever you are writing something that happened in consequence to something else that you stated before, you have to use consequently, right? So I can say that Ahmed didn't wear his helmet. Consequently, he got hit by the ball. Okay, so you see how I used the word consequently because something was happening in consequence to something else that happened before. Okay, and unfortunately, you use this when you want to express your despair, when you want to express that something is not going according to plan. Like, for example, unfortunately, I could not make it to the party, right? So you're sad about that. So these are just this is just some extra information that I wanted to give you in case some of you didn't know that you always have to add commas after these words. Now, the third topic in improving sentences is misplaced modifier. Now, let's first understand what a modifier is. A modifier is anything that changes something. Okay, modify means to change. So a modifier is anything that changes something, right? So when we talk about a sentence, a modifier is a word that changes the meaning of the sentence. Okay, for example, if I say I ate a burger. Okay, right now the sentence is I ate a burger. But if I add the word vegetarian, I ate a vegetarian burger, then what is my modifier over here? My modifier is vegetarian, right? Because it changed the meaning of the sentence. Because initially, when I said I ate a burger, it was just a burger. Nobody knew what kind of a burger I ate. But once I mentioned that I ate a vegetarian burger, then the word vegetarian is my modifier, right? Because it changed my sentence. So, a misplaced modifier, what does the word misplaced means? Something that is not in its correct place. Okay, so a misplaced modifier makes the meaning of a sentence ambiguous or wrong. The word ambiguous means unclear. Okay, so when a sentence is ambiguous, it means it's unclear and it's hard to understand what's going on in the sentence. So ambiguous or wrong. Now let's look at the first example. Lee only eats cakes. Now, the word only is our modifier over here. Okay, and this sentence is ambiguous because you don't know if the intended meaning of the sentence is that Lee eats nothing but cakes, right? So, what is the sentence telling you right now? Lee only eats cakes. So this sentence can actually have two meanings, right? The first meaning is that Lee eats nothing but cakes, as in Lee only eats cakes and he eats nothing else. Now the second meaning can be that Lee only eats cakes, he doesn't do anything else to cakes, right? That means he doesn't bake them, he doesn't he doesn't decorate them, he doesn't do anything else to cakes, he only eats them, right? So we have to be very careful about where we place the word only, okay? Now the correct way of placing this word, the word only, would be, okay, this way the word only, which is our modifier, is right before the word cakes, right? So what is this sentence telling you? Lee eats only cakes. It means that Lee eats nothing but cakes. He doesn't eat anything else. He only eats cakes, right? So sometimes when we have to be very careful about placing our modifier, because that makes our sentence ambiguous, right? It changes, the person who is reading the sentence doesn't really know what you're talking about. Now, let's look at the second sentence. Talking quickly annoys people. Now, in this one, quickly is our modifier, okay, because it is changing the meaning of the sentence. Now, this sentence is ambiguous, it is unclear because we cannot be sure if quickly applies to talking or annoys people, right? Let me explain that to you. So, talking quickly annoys people can have two different meanings, okay? The first meaning can be that when you talk quickly, it annoys people, right? So, the quickly is referring to talking, it is describing the action of talking. So, when you talk quickly, it annoys people. That is the first meaning. The second meaning can be that the word quickly applies to the second word, which is annoys people. Okay, so it means that when I talk, it quickly annoys people. Okay, I hope you're understanding the difference between the two sentences. The first one was talking about talking, right? So the word quickly was applying to talking. And in the second meaning, the word quickly is applying to annoys people. That means when I talk, it annoys people quickly, right? So the sentence is kind of unclear. When you're writing the sentence, it's clear to you because you know what you're writing. But you have to think about the person who is reading the sentence, right? It should be clear to them as well what you're trying to say. Let's look at the third example. Having read your letter, my parrot has since died. Now, this sentence is kind of senseless. It's not making sense, right? Because having read your letter is your modifier. Oh, remember that modifier, your modifier in a sentence doesn't always have to be one word. It can be a group of words also. It can be a phrase, okay? So it doesn't always have to be one word. Now, having read your letter is our modifier over here. And then the rest of the sentence is, my parrot has since died. Now, when I read the sentence, I'm wondering, did the parrot read the letter or did the parrot die because I read the letter? It's not making sense. Plus, I feel like this phrase over here, having read your letter, it's not really applying to anything else in the sentence. So it shouldn't be here, right? Because reading a letter does not cause a parrot to die, right? That's common sense. And parrots can't read letters, and a parrot can't die if I read the letter. So this sentence is not really making sense, right? So having read your letter does not apply to anything in the sentence. So it should be removed altogether. So I have a few more examples of misplaced modifier over here. The first one is, we will not sell paraffin to anyone in glass bottles. Now in this sentence, in glass bottles is our modifier, okay, because it's changing the meaning of the sentence. Now, right now, as the modifier is placed, this sentence means that we're talking about people in glass bottles, but can people be in glass bottles? They can't, right? So clearly, the sentence wants to say that we won't sell paraffin in glass bottles to anyone, right? It's talking about the paraffin, not people in glass bottles. It's talking about paraffin in glass bottles. But you see, this modifier has been misplaced, right? It's not placed correctly. It should be somewhere else. It should be, we will not sell paraffin in glass bottles to anyone, right? So if we shift this over here, after paraffin, that makes more sense because now we know that the writer is talking about paraffin in glass bottles and not people in glass bottles, right? That's common sense. Of course, you can decipher the meaning of the sentence because you have some common sense, but the sentence is incorrect. Okay, that's very incorrectly written. So we know clearly this is about paraffin in glass bottles and not people in glass bottles, right? So placing your modifier too far away from the thing being modified will do little to showcase your writing skills. That means that when you place your modifier too far away from the subject of the sentence, right? So our main subject, the thing we are talking about over here is paraffin. Now the word paraffin is very far away from the modifier, right? And when you do that, it really changes the meaning of your sentence, and it makes your sentence very unclear and very incorrect also, right? As we saw over here. So we're gonna try and avoid doing that, and we always have to place our modifier as close as possible to the subject or to the thing being talked about in the sentence. Okay, so let's read the next example. Andrew said after the holiday he intends to stop drinking. Okay, number one, there are no commas in the sentence. Number two, after the holiday is our modifier. Okay, now, right now, what the sentence means is that, right, we're unclear about the meaning of the sentence, right? Because this sentence can have two different meanings. The first meaning is that, did Andrew say after the holiday that he intends to stop drinking? That means, did he come back from holiday and say that he intends to stop drinking? Or did he say that he intends to stop drinking after his holiday, right? So this sentence right now has two different meanings. Now, the way to correct this would be, um, Andrew said he intends to stop drinking after the holiday. Okay, if we shift this over here after the word drinking, right? Because that is, your common sense is telling you that that is what the sentence is trying to say, right? That Andrew is saying that after his holiday ends, he's going to stop drinking, right? So it's best to place the modifier next to the thing being talked about, which is drinking. Okay, so the correct way to write this would be, Andrew said he intends to stop drinking after the holiday. Okay, that's a better sentence. That's a correct sentence, and it's telling you what it's meant to tell you. Okay, now the third example is meticulous and punctual. Her work ethic is admirable. Meticulous and punctual is our modifier over here because it's altering the meaning of the sentence. Now, meticulous and punctual is kind of useless over here because it's not applying to anything, right? The modifier does not apply to anything in the sentence, so we can actually remove it altogether, right? If we remove it, the remaining sentence will still be a complete sentence. Her work ethic is admirable. That's it, right? We don't even need this meticulous and punctual because, again, it's not applying to anything and it's just making your sentence incorrect. Now, I'm going to do some examples with you from the worksheet that you will find in the description box under this video. Okay, so make sure after you watch this video, you go and attempt the questions on your own. And you can also check your answers to see if you're on the right track. Okay, but I will do some examples with you. So number one is, recently I attended a conference. I met vice president of the company there. Now, as you can see, the entire sentence has been underlined, right? So what does that mean? We have to improve the entire sentence. Now, if only a part of a sentence was underlined, you would only have to improve that part of the sentence. Okay, but right now we have to check whether the entire sentence makes sense, and we have to improve it. Okay, so let's look at the options one by one. Now, this is a run-on sentence. Okay, because it's just sort of, there are two different sentences forced into one sentence, and there should be some other punctuation in the sentence. Okay, so let's look at the options one by one. Now, the first option, as I've told you before in my previous video, that the first option is always the same as the question, right? So if you think that the question is correct, if you think that the sentence in the question is correct, you're going to choose option A. But right now, we're not going to choose option A because it's not correct. Let's look at option number B. Recently, comma, I attended a conference, comma, having met the vice president of the company. This is wrong, okay? Because the word having is so unnecessary over here and it's making our sentence incorrect. Let's look at option C. Recently, comma, I attended a conference, comma, where I met the vice president of the company. Okay, this sounds right. Let's look at the fourth one. Recently, I attended a conference, semicolon, I met the vice president of the company. Okay, now, um, even though option D sounds correct, it looks correct because of the semicolon over here, right? So what they've done with the semicolon is that they have separated the two sentences and they have used a semicolon between them, okay, because they're closely related. But so this is incorrect, and I'll tell you why. So we're going to choose option C because the point you want to get across to your reader is that you met the vice president of the company at a conference, right? And which sentence is getting that point across? It's option C. And why is that? Because it's saying, recently I attended a conference where I met the vice president of the company. So it's clearly telling you that you went to a conference and you met the vice president of the company there, right? So your correct answer is C. Okay, let's look at question number 2. If you fail, comma, the problem lies with you, comma, don't blame the test paper. Now again, this is a run-on sentence, okay? Because there are two different sentences forced into one sentence and we can separate them, okay? Now let's see, what are our two different sentences in this? So if you fail, the problem lies with you is our first one, and don't blame the test paper is our second one, okay? Now, you cannot use a comma between them because look, you can either use a full stop or you can use a semicolon, right? To separate two sentences. You cannot separate them using a comma. Okay, a comma is used to separate parts of parts of the same sentence, right? Not to separate two different sentences. So let's look at the options. The option number A is the same as the question, so we're going to cancel that right away. Option B is if you fail, then the problem lies with you and don't blame the test paper. This itself is a run-on, okay, because the sentence is going on and on. They've added the word then and they've added the word and, but it just, the sentence is too long. It should be shorter and it should be correctly punctuated. So option B is wrong. Option C, if you fail, the problem lies with you, don't blame the test paper. Now there's absolutely no punctuation over here. They even removed the comma from the middle that was over here. So this is incorrect, right? This is still a run on. Let's look at option D. If you fail, comma, the problem lies with you, full stop. Don't blame the test paper. Now this is correct. Why is it correct? Because it separated the two sentences using a full stop in the middle, right? It made the second one a new sentence, which is correct. It's fine. This is not a run-on sentence anymore. So the answer is option D. Okay, now let's look at question number 3. We must either raise revenues or it will be necessary to reduce expenses. Now, there are two things wrong with this sentence. Number one, it's a run on. And number two, faulty parallelism. Okay, so we learned what faulty parallelism is in our previous lecture, which was on incorrect word choice, right? And I told you, so if you haven't watched that lecture, please go watch it before you do this, before you attempt this question, because this question also has faulty parallelism. Now, what does faulty parallelism mean? It's when all the words in the sentence are not in the same form, right? So let's read the sentence again. We must either raise revenues or it will be necessary to reduce expenses. Now, either raise revenues or will be necessary to reduce expenses. Now, both of them are not following the same form, okay? And plus, it is a run-on sentence. So let's see how we can fix it. Option number A is the same as the question. So we're going to cancel option A. Option B, we must either raise revenues or reduce expenses. Now, this is correct. Now, look, guys, whenever you are improving sentences or completing sentences or you're doing anything to any sentence, just remember, I told you this in the previous video also, your goal should be to make the sentence short, simple, and to the point. Okay, it should not be complex. It should not be long. It should be short, simple, and to the point. That means it should get your point across. It should, when the reader reads your sentence, they should immediately know what you're talking about. They shouldn't have to make any guesses or assumptions, right? So this sentence is short, it's simple. I'm talking about option B here. So option B is, so it's short, it's simple, and it's to the point, right? So this is correct, but let's have a look at the other options as well. C is, we must either to raise revenues or to reduce expenses. Now, this is incorrect. It's grammatically incorrect, as all of you might already know. This is incorrect, right? Either to raise revenues is incorrect English, and so we're just going to cancel this option. Option D is, we either raise revenues or it will be necessary to reduce expenses. Again, same problem over here, faulty parallelism. Why? Because look at this, either raise revenues or it will be necessary to reduce expenses. Both of them are not in the same form. So there is faulty parallelism in this sentence, hence incorrect. So our correct option is option number B. Why? Because it's short, it's simple, it's to the point, it's not a run on sentence, there's no faulty parallelism. There is correct parallelism, in fact, because either raise revenues or reduce expenses. They're both in the same form. So our answer is option number B. Okay, let's look at question number 7. The path to develop a human colony on Mars is challenging, comma, but people have already started work on it, comma, hopefully things will move forward. Now, what is this? It's a run-on, right? Because it's going on, and there are commas in the sentence, but the sentence is just too long, right? And what did I tell you? You cannot use a comma to separate two complete sentences, okay? Let me write that for you. This is wrong. You cannot do that. What you can do is you can use a comma to separate parts of the same sentence. Okay, so what they've done over here, they have, firstly, let's identify the different sentences in this one sentence. Okay, the path to develop a human colony on Mars is challenging, but people have already started work on it. Now, this entire thing is one sentence. Okay, till here. And the second sentence is, hopefully things will move forward. So that was one, this is two. Okay, so you see now these are two long sentences and they have been forced into one sentence. So clearly this is a run-on sentence. Okay, and what they've done is they have used commas to separate these sentences, right? Which is incorrect. We cannot do that. So let's see. Now, as you notice, only some part of the sentence has been underlined, which means we only have to improve that part, right? Starting from here. But people have already started work on it. Hopefully, things will move forward. Okay, so we only have to improve this part, not the entire sentence. Now, option number A is the same as the question, so we will cancel that right away. Option B is, but people have having already started work on it, comma, things will move forward. This is grammatically incorrect, okay? And again, they have used a comma here to separate two complete sentences. So this is still a run-on. So we'll cancel this option. Option C, but people have already started work on it, full stop. Hopefully, comma, things will move forward. Now, what have they done over here? They have separated the two sentences by putting a full stop between them, okay? And that's correct. Also, another thing to notice over here, like I told you before, there are some words that always have a comma after them, like however and therefore. It's the same for hopefully. Okay, there should always be a comma after hopefully. So remember that. And what was wrong over here? There was no comma in the question after hopefully. But right over here, they have added a comma after hopefully. So this seems to be correct. Okay, but let's read option D. But hopefully things will move forward, work already having started on it. This whole part is grammatically incorrect. So let's cancel this option. The correct answer is option number C. Okay, why? Because there was a run-on sentence in the question, and we divided that one sentence into two different complete sentences, and we used proper punctuation in our sentences. Okay. Let's look at question number 8. Sitting on the curb, the pedestrian was hit by a car. Okay, now what is this? This is a case of, okay, misplaced modifier. Now, it's kind of unclear what the sentence is talking about, okay? Is the sentence saying that the pedestrian was sitting on the curb or the car was sitting on the curb, or it's kind of unclear who was sitting on the curb and who got hit by the car. So let's read the options one by one. Option A is the same as the question, so we're going to cancel that right away. Option B is the car sitting on the curb hit the pedestrian. Now, what is this sentence telling you? Now, first, I hope you guys realize that sitting on the curb is our modifier over here, okay? So let's see. So in all the sentences, they're changing the position of the modifier, and we have to recognize in which sentence it's in the correct position, okay? So clearly in option number B, it's not in the correct position, right? The car sitting on the curb. So it seems like the car was sitting on the curb. I hope you guys know what a curb is, right? A curb is a footpath. So the car sitting on the curb. Can a car be sitting on a footpath? It cannot, right? So this is incorrect. The car sitting on the curb hit the pedestrian. That means it was sitting on the curb and it just hit the pedestrian. So this sentence is very senseless. So we'll cancel that. Option C is the pedestrian sitting on the curb was hit by a car. Okay, so this sentence is saying that the pedestrian was sitting on the curb and it was hit by a car. So it's kind of correct, but it's not very like it doesn't sound very good, okay? But let's look at option D. The pedestrian sitting on the curb was hit by a car. Now this sentence is, it's short, it's complete, and it's giving you the message, right? It's telling you exactly what it's meant to say. Okay, so the pedestrian sitting on the curb was hit by a car. What is this sentence telling you? That the pedestrian who was sitting on the curb was hit by a car. Now, the difference between option D and option C is that since the modifier is enclosed in commas, right? There's a comma before it and there's a comma after it. It kind of makes this modifier useless. Okay, so remember, whenever we in a sentence, whenever we put a phrase or a word between commas, anything over here between commas, this means that this information within commas is extra, it's meaningless, and if you remove it, if removed, sentence will be the same. Okay, what that means is whenever you enclose a phrase or a word in commas in a sentence, okay, when there's a comma on either side of it, that means that the information that is between the commas, it's extra, it's not really needed. And if you remove that information, the sentence will still remain the same, it will still remain complete, and the meaning of the sentence will not change, right? It will still mean the same thing. Now, is that the case over here? Because we said in the beginning that sitting on the curb is our modifier. So clearly it's an important part of the sentence, right? The reader needs to know that the pedestrian was sitting on the curb and so he was hit by a car. But in option C, what is happening is that this information seems to be extra, right? Sitting on the curb seems to be extra and unimportant, which is not the case, right? This is our modifier. It's important information. So we cannot enclose it in commas, right? So option number D is the correct option because it's simple, it's short, it's to the point, and it's getting my point across. Okay, let's look at question number 13. My sister's promotion means that she will be moving to another state and take the children with her. Now, we have to improve the underlined part. I hope all of you notice that this is a case of faulty parallelism that we talked about in the previous video, which was on incorrect word choice. Okay, so again, if you haven't watched that, please go watch that because it's very important. The rules that we studied in that video are very important. Okay, so my sister's promotion means that she will be moving to another state and take the children with her. So again, both of these phrases are not in the same form, right? So what do we have here? We have faulty parallelism over here. So let's look at the options. Option A is the same as the question, so incorrect. Option B, and be taking the children with her. Okay, so let's put it back in the sentence and see if it fits. My sister's promotion means that she will be moving to another state and be taking the children with her. Okay, so the rest of the phrase is correct, but just the word be is extra, right? Because otherwise the sentence will have the word be twice. My sister's promotion means that she will be moving to another state and be taking the children with her. So we cannot do that, okay? That's repetition of a word and that's grammatically incorrect. So wrong. Option C, and taking the children with her. So this is correct, right? There's no repetition of be and there's no faulty parallelism. The two phrases are in the same form. Okay, so let's read the sentence again by plugging in option number C. My sister's promotion means that she will be moving to another state and taking the children with her. So that's correct, right? We know right away that that's correct. It's fitting. But let's have a look at option D also. My sister's promotion means that she will be moving to another state and will take the children with her. So, what do we have here? We have a case of faulty parallelism over here. Because again, the two phrases are not in the same form, so we cannot choose option D. The correct answer is option C. Okay, so question number 18 is the new instructor was both enthusiastic and she was demanding. What do we have here again? It's a case of faulty parallelism. The new instructor was both enthusiastic, right? And she was demanding. So again, it's the two words are not in the same form. So let's see what we can do about it. Option number A, we will cancel because it's wrong. Option B is the new instructor was both enthusiastic and demanding. This is correct, right? Because there's no faulty parallelism in this. The words are in the same form, enthusiastic and demanding, right? They're in the same form. So this is correct. But let's look at option C and D. The new instructor was both enthusiastic but demanding. Now we don't need a but over here, right? We're just describing the instructor and we don't need a but in the middle. We need an and in the middle. So this is wrong. Option D is the new instructor was both enthusiastic and also demanding. Now the word also is extra over here. See, what do we have here? And also. What did I teach you in the previous video? This is redundancy. Using two words that have the same meaning, when we use them together, it's called redundancy because and means that you're about to add something to the sentence and also means that you're about to add something to the sentence. So do we need to use both of them together? No, we don't, right? We can use either the first one or the second one. We cannot use both of them together. So that's what's happening over here, enthusiastic and also demanding. Now this is redundant, right? So this is also wrong. So our correct option is B. Okay, why? Because it's simple, it's short, it's to the point, it's getting your message across. So remember, whenever you read a sentence and you have to improve it or you have to complete it, always think about all of the rules you have studied, okay? Because sometimes there are many rules that apply to the same sentence, right? Like we're noticing that in these questions, there's faulty parallelism, and faulty parallelism we studied about in the last lecture, right? Not in this lecture. So you sort of have to take all the information together and you have to take all of the rules together and you have to apply them together, okay? So it's not just don't think that, oh, this one rule applies to this sentence. No, just think about other rules that can apply to the same sentence and then improve the sentence accordingly, okay? And that will only come with practice. The more practice you do, the better you will be able to recognize how many errors there are in a sentence, okay? Like, for example, in this option D, I realized that there's redundancy in this sentence, right? Uh, can you think about whether you would have been able to recognize that if you were doing this example alone? Would you have been able to identify that, right? And if not, then that means you need some more practice. You need to practice more questions so that the more questions you do, the more questions you see, the better you will be able to identify how many errors there are in a sentence. Also, please, I hope you guys realize that you will not spend the same amount of time as I am spending on each question, okay? Because I am explaining this to you, I am doing it as an example. So I am considering each and every option, and I'm telling you the error. I'm telling you what the error is in each option, right? But you're not going to do that. You have a few seconds to do each question. So you will be considering the options very quickly, and you will have to decide very quickly what the correct option is, right? And again, that will only come with practice, right? Practicing more also gives you a lot of speed because you're used to it. You're used to identifying the errors. You're used to improving sentences. So it's like second nature to you, right? So it's very easy for you. So that's why I keep saying make sure you practice enough questions. So we have our last example over here. So let's read it. Question number 23 is, it is highly desirable that you furnish evidence of your expenses before you submit your final accounts. Okay, so we have to improve the underlined part of the sentence, which is sort of a run-on, right? This entire sentence is a bit of a run-on sentence because there's just some extra words in this sentence that shouldn't be here, that they don't need to be here. So let's read the options one by one. Option number A is the same as the question, so we'll cancel that. Option B is, it is highly desirable that you should furnish evidence of your expenses. So the extra word over here is should, and that is unnecessary, right? Already the original sentence has some unnecessary words, and we don't want to add more words to to worsen it. So this is wrong. Option C is, it is highly to be desired that you furnish evidences of your expenses. Now, this is grammatically incorrect because highly to be desired is grammatically incorrect. It's not correct English. And furnish evidences of your expenses. So this is wrong, grammatically incorrect. Option D, you must furnish evidence of your expenses. Now, see, what is this? It's short, it's simple, and it's to the point, right? And that is our main goal. So, you must furnish evidence of your expenses before you submit your final accounts. Is it getting your point across? Yes, it is. Is it simple? Yes, it is. Is it short? Yes, it is. So, our correct answer is D. Okay, so whenever you read a question, you also have to think about whether there are extra words in this question, right? So, for example, highly desirable that you furnish evidence. Now, highly desirable is not needed. I mean, even if you say you must furnish evidence of your expenses, it's getting the point across. It's telling you that doing this is necessary, right? You didn't have to use the words highly desirable. So we shortened the sentence and we made it, you must furnish evidence of your expenses. So that's it for this video. Make sure you click the link in the description because that's the link to our Google Drive folder, which has all the worksheets. So make sure you practice all the questions on your own. And I keep saying this again and again. After you're done practicing a worksheet, come back to it in a few days and practice it again, okay, to see if you have improved or if you're at the same level. That will sort of give you an idea where you're at and if you're on the right track, okay? And if you're not on the right track, if you are still making a lot of mistakes, you need to watch these lectures again. You need to review these notes again, okay? You have to go through all of the rules one by one again, and you have to make sure you understand them and you understand their application. Like, how are these rules applied, right? So that's it, and I'll see you in the next video.